Vince. Almost there.
There we go.
There you are. Hi, nice to meet you.
You too. How are you?
I'm Karen.
Hi,
I'm
Karen.
I'm Barb
Hey,
Collins.
Barb. Nice to meet you both. Glad we
Thank
can.
you so much for meeting with us.
Yeah. Thank you so much for coming on. And it was funny how I found you. It was like,
I know, it's very coincidental.
yeah, right. You know what it was? I happened to see an article that the David Cassidy website had shown, had posted, and I was reading it and I was really intrigued by it. And it was talking about your dad. And so I said, let me see if he's, around. I'd love to find out more about it. And then, I started Googling, looking, and then I found you and I said, all right, he has the same name. And then it said that you were originally from Vinland, New Jersey. And I said, it must be him. It must be some connection.
Happy me.
So, yeah, that was you. So that's how I found you. And so, thank you for coming on. And, how I'm going to handle this is I just like to let everyone know who you are. Maybe you could tell us who you are, and then tell us a little bit about your dad and his connection, with David, his limo service. And then I have some questions, and Barb has some questions for you. So
sure.
We can start that way.
I'll do the best I can. I was I was born in 74. I think it all happened in the late 70s, but he did tell the story often. So I'll try and be as fresh in my memories as I can.
Okay. So you weren't even born when your father was doing this.
No, I was born in 74. I think they started the business in 70, I believe.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, and this was 1971. This was July 10th, 1971.
Yeah, so I was still maybe a thought, not quite there yet. Maybe.
That's great. Oh, that's awesome. So, so what was your first memory? So tell us first about your father. Who was he? A little bit about his background. I know he has a musical background as well.
Yeah, we're the whole family. We're 100% Roman Catholic, 100% Italian. So we're all Italian. He's my father was half Sicilian, a quarter Napolitan, and a quarter Calabrese from Calabria, and grew up in a farm right outside of Woodsboro, by Clayton in South Jersey there. But it's kind of interesting story how he got involved in the limo service and music, etc. The story he always told, which my grandfather, reiterated a couple times, was true, that when he was growing up on the farm, all 5 brothers and sisters had to work on the farm, etc. And he got a shotgun for his birthday, and he really wanted to learn to play the trumpet. He was obsessed with Louis Armstrong and Ella Fitzgerald, specifically Louis Armstrong. So he loved them. He used to go out to the back shed and in the farm there and actually listen to Louis and try and play, try and mimic his music from a old trumpet that he has found, but it was very dilapidated and didn't work good. So he wanted to get that, and he always said the biggest fight him and his father ever had, and actually the only time he got beat is when he went to go trade a shotgun in for a trumpet. So they had a big fight about it. But that's what started him on his journey, his music. So what he would literally do is listen to Louis Armstrong and Ella's records and mimic them. So he taught himself completely to learn music from scratch and by ear. So he still, to the day he died about 6-7 years ago, he still could never read music, but he could play anything from any genre. As long as he heard it one time, he could repeat it back to you. But so that was his love and passion. But he had to make money also and make a living. So the limo business started off in 1970 to run a limo business while he was trying to make his way in music.
Oh, wow. Awesome. Okay. And Bob, can you show the picture of his dad? In the article, they named him the man that drove David Cassidy around Wildwood.
Right. Big accolade, right?
Which is awesome. And what was your father's personality like? What was he like?
Oh my God, very, very funny. Always making jokes, always laughing, and definitely would give the shirt off his back to anybody. So massive, massive heart. My mother was a little more harder, but my dad was again just always joking, making fun, and really just liked everybody. That's why I'm not surprised, the connection that him and Davey made right off the bat, because he was very, making sure if he were to be involved with anybody, whether it was a friend, a neighbor, or a sibling or a celebrity, that they were taken care of. So I'm not surprised at all that he made sure he was protected and watched closely and taken care of, not just like driving somebody around. He was always very attentive to what was going on around his surroundings.
Oh, that's great. So David was in good hands with your dad.
Yeah, yes, very much.
Oh, that's awesome. So tell us, I guess, some stories that you remember, like with your dad, because I know I don't know how far your home was to where he had to drive David. Like, was it close within?
Yeah, we're right in the middle of South Jersey, right in between Philadelphia and the Jersey Shore. So it's about a half an hour drive to Wildwood, which is where the concert was that Davey performed at. Okay. And it's kind of funny because I think I mentioned in the article, they just found my dad through the Yellow Pages because they were a new company. So they had a really big ad laid out there, and he that's how they connected. But as I was born in 74, 71. But he did tell the story many times, and the reason why that actually what happened was in the long run is that I think, and you'll correct me if I'm wrong, but there was a connection between Davey and Ronnie Howard. I think they were good friends for a while, and they became buddies. And what happened was that my dad only drove Davey a couple times, but he actually pitched Ron Howard pitched my dad to Ron Howard as he was growing up on Happy Days. And said, you got to call this guy. He took such good care of me. So he ended up driving Ron. So the story kind of always started with Ron Howard because he drove him around for 6 or 7 years every time he came to New Jersey or Philadelphia or New York. And he said this whole thing started from working with Davy Jones the first time and him being very happy and safe with my dad being there. And I think he even doubled as a bodyguard because he just was built and wired that way. He was an Army guy. He was a bouncer at a club. There was the old Claridge Hotel and Casino, which was the Ritz-Carlton at the time in Atlantic City. So my dad was a bouncer there at a club in a musician club. So he kind of already was wired that way.
Yeah.
But they made such a big connection that he introduced him to Ron Howard, and they drove him around for many years too after that.
Oh wow! So he also drove around Davy Jones. You mentioned.
Yes. Yeah. Right.
Oh,
yes.
because David and Davy Jones were like very close towards the end of his life, like the last 5 years of Davy Jones's life. David. Right. I don't know if he knew him back then, but they were very close. And
Cassidy, David Cassidy was just, I believe, the one or two times, and then Jones many times, and then Ron Howard went on for years. That one were enough. That I even remember into the early '80s when I was getting old enough. Then I remember actually meeting Ronnie Howard because that he drove him for so long around. So it really became David Cassidy was first, and he did the accolades about my dad. They were always mobbed. I mean, that period of their life. They were teen models at that point in their life.
Oh
still.
yeah. Yeah. And what was Ron Howard doing in New Jersey at the time? Like, what kind of things was he doing? Like in the area?
They would come and do appearances, normally in Philadelphia or Atlantic City or New York. Like for at that time it was for Happy Days. So the show was very, very popular, and they would do these kind of like citywide tours, kind of like what Melrose Place and Beverly Hills 90210 used to do in the late '90s. They would just go as a young cast, go to malls, meet people, sign autographs, and that kind of thing. And he would drive them around and make sure they got to point A and point B, safely.
Oh wow, well, that's awesome! Wow, that's crazy. The connections, right?
Yeah.
Wow. And what did you think of Ron Howard? What was that like meeting him?
Well, I was very, very young, but again, I watched Happy Days all the time growing up, so I knew exactly who he was, and I remember him being very, very sweet and very nice, and even to this day, I always have a soft spot in my heart for him because he was always so nice to my dad. And I do remember, I was too young for David Cassidy, but I do remember that all the men used to tip him very, very well. So he always come back and talk about that. Did he get a gigantic tip because he would double up as a chef, bodyguard, driver. He would even sign autographs sometimes, on behalf of them while they're being mobbed, with their permission. So he did everything.
Right. Oh my goodness, that's great. How big was the tips? I'd be curious to hear how much of a tip they got.
I think at the time it was like 75 or like $80 to drive them around, and he would get like an equal amount, which was a gigantic money then. In the 70s, he would get like another $100 tip or something. Yeah, even now $100 is a good tip, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. And he definitely was. It was. I think it was kind of like if I remember the story correctly, it was after Cassidy had did a couple of rides with him, that he kind of said, "Okay, call this guy. He'll drive you around, but he'll make sure you're safe. Make sure that somebody will have your ass if something happens. It'll almost be more as kind of security and double up, which is really he was wired that way. He always was very protective of people."
Oh, that's awesome. That's so nice. And and it shows that for them to say that to another celebrity, because their reputation's on the line too.
Right.
Exactly. So now this article that I had here, it actually was 3 girls that loved I guess went to the concert, and they found out that your father drove the limo, and there were 3 girls. Their names were Elizabeth and Cheryl and another girl. And so they called your father up. Did he ever talk about this interview at all to you?
No, he didn't actually. And when you sent like when I got this from you a couple months ago, it was the first time I've ever seen of it or heard of it. And again, my dad also was very, very modest. He would even it's just a newspaper article, but he didn't really talk about anything. We found so many things when he passed away about stuff in the Army where he was rewarded for, and just didn't talk about any of it. So he always was kind of just took everything as strike. So I didn't know about it, so you brought it to my attention actually, which made me so happy to see it.
Oh, I'm so happy that I was able to find that for you, because I know. Yeah, both my parents passed away, so I always look for things that new things I can learn about my parents. Yeah, I'm very, very sentimental, and I had 40 years of all my house burned down a couple of years ago, unfortunately. So I lost everything. So anything I can ever find, dig up. It's I had my dad's, trumpet and the flag that he would from his coffin when he was buried. So all that kind of stuff that was really important to me. And we even had Louis Armstrong's one of his 3 surviving trumpets. That's one of the things I did about music with my dad. That I went to Christie's auction house about 15 years ago, and I knew it was coming up on the block, and I bidded for it, and I was able to get that from my dad. So he always had that, and I lost that in the fire. So it was really because Louis Armstrong was like Jesus to him. So he was really So back to the point, he loved driving the musicians around. He loved anything to do with music. So it was I think he kind of lived through them a little bit. Yeah. What kind of music did he play? Was it like a jazz kind of music? But his band, I know his band was called the Capris.
Yeah, he officially did go out and play jazz, but he really could play anything. But when we went on the road, they played jazz and or Dixieland, believe it or not, which was, a lot of people would play Dixieland. So he would do the weddings and bar mitzvahs and all that kind of stuff. But mostly he'd go out and play at restaurants and stuff. But at the end of the day, he could hear a modern song right now this week if he was still alive and repeat it to you on a trumpet. It was crazy. And the funny thing was, on the other side of my family, my mother's father was a conductor and a composer, and he always used to bust each other's balls, because he would say, my grandfather would say to my father that you're brilliant. Oh my God, you can play everything by ear. And my dad couldn't read a stitch of music, and my dad would be like to my grandfather, oh my God, you can compose a symphony. And my dad couldn't read a word of music, so my grandfather could play a whole entire symphony on his violin and read it verbatim for the first time. And my dad didn't know what it even said. And my grandfather said, "You play Mary Had a Little Lamb from scratch, Grandpa," and he couldn't do it. So they were completely the opposites as far as how their brains work, musical wise.
Yeah. Oh wow, that's great.
Yeah.
Oh wow. So now when he did this interview, how do you feel about us reading it out loud?
No, sure.
Yeah. Do you have a copy with you?
I do. I got it in front of me.
Yeah, Bob, you could take away maybe the picture, the slide, and maybe put up the Vinlander slide for a second so they could see it.
Oh, there we go. Yep.
Yeah. Okay. And okay, so I guess all our fans that could hear the actual interview that your dad did, I'll ask the questions and you could answer the things that your dad said about it. And if you remember anything that your father may have mentioned, you could just interject it as we're doing the questions. Okay, so was David nervous before the concert?
My dad said no, he wasn't nervous actually during the concert, which doesn't surprise me. He was pretty seasoned, Cassidy, at that point.
Yeah. Okay. Did David eat breakfast?
I said yes, he had toast and coffee.
Okay. Were any of David's family there?
My dad said Susan Day was there, and she came with it, but she came on a different plane. So they were there. I guess eventually they met up there.
Oh, wow. Yeah, I'm surprised to hear that because I didn't know that Susan Day actually came to any of the concerts.
Yeah.
That's pretty cool. So did he actually see? Did he ever mention that he saw her there at the concert? At all?
Yeah, he met her. Yeah, he went backstage and everything. Yeah, he met the. Yeah.
Oh, so when he was doing the limo driving, so he didn't just wait in the limo while David was performing. He actually came inside as well.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. They kind of connected from day one. So he almost kind of functioned as almost a extra security layer. He went back there with him and just said, I'm the driver. Very very Italian. I'm the driver. And they hung out.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
That's pretty cool. Did David wear shirts and bells?
My dad says yes, but I'm just curious. I didn't know. Did he wear bells on his shirts all the time? That's something that was hot in the 60s and 70s?
Yeah, I don't know what they mean by bells. Maybe they mean bell bottoms? I don't know.
I don't know. I feel like maybe he wore like bells on his shirt. That one actually threw me. I'm curious about that. Maybe that's something I don't know about David Cassidy. He wore bells on his tassels or something.
Bob, do you know anything about bells? You're muted. Bob, you're muted.
I think if you look at some of the pictures with the fringes, I think there's like little, I don't think it's bells. I think it's like little beads that might make noise. But I also think it could mean I think it could mean bell bottoms.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. Maybe.
A lot of his pants were,
tight
pants that came out. So I think that it could mean that.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I was probably just at the concert and not really looking at his face and not really looking at his feet.
Yeah. What did he drink while on stage?
Well, it sounds pretty boring, but just water, supposedly. But in fairness to keeping David's story, they used to drink in a limo afterwards. That's for sure. I remember that as a side note. Not in a bad way, but they were all drinkers. Ronnie, David Jones, David Cassidy, they would have some fun afterwards, but he never got too much detail from that. So they always said, yeah, he drank water on stage, but when they were done, they did have some fun. They went and had some fun.
Yeah, of course. After that, all that. What did David do between concerts?
He said he stayed backstage and was sort of a decoy. So that's where I think they said he kind of brought my dad in to kind of be a decoy when he was still backstage to kind of keep an extra layer there. Yeah,
because I know they used to, they used to hide David like in a car. Like they used to throw him in a blanket. Right. Did he mention anything about him being wrapped up in a blanket at all? Because I know that that's typically what they did. They would do a decoy car and they would wrap him up in a blanket, throw him on the floor. It was like mayhem,
I don't remember that part. I remember saying that, but I do know that all of our limos, they all were like very, very dark tinted. Maybe they didn't have to do it, I would think, at the time. I don't know. But I guess now the laws are like, you can't have a tint like too dark. But now before they were just black as night, the tint.
Yeah.
But, so I don't remember the blanket part. No.
Okay. They also said that David wanted to go to the beach, but it rained. So I guess the weather wasn't good that day.
I guess.
Yeah. What airport did David come in at?
That was in Cape May. So that's a very, very, very South Jersey. It's at one of our most southern shore points, right by Wildwood there.
Okay.
And I think Cape May at the time also was a private airport. So maybe he flew private, which I wouldn't be surprised. I don't think it was a commercial airport. It never was, I don't believe.
Okay. What did he eat besides breakfast?
Well, sounded like the first night he ate tuna fish sandwich, and after the concert he ate crabs and fish, and the food was picked out for him. So it sounded like he was like fish, huh? And the seafood. Sounds like.
Yeah.
Which, again, if you're in South Jersey, you do. I mean, our crabs, our seafood, everything is amazing.
Yeah. Okay. Where did he stay?
At the Aquarius Hotel, which I mean, it's definitely not there anymore. I never even heard of that hotel, so that must be long gone.
Okay. Yeah, I was looking at. I believe it's still around. This is the.
This is in Wildwood. I'm thinking Atlantic City. I thought. Okay. Yeah.
So I think it's still around. It might be called something a little bit different. I think it's still called Aquarius. And they were saying that it was like a Greek-themed motel. They also said, I had some information here about it. They said that it was 27. There was 27 rooms, and they were all oceanfront. It had just opened up in 1970, so this was 1971, so it was very new when he went there. It was an excellent location because it was so close to the convention hall, and the convention hall has since been demolished, the one that he actually performed at. But I think there's a new convention hall there, and that's why it was probably chosen. It was located at Taylor and Ocean Avenue, and so that's where he stayed, and there was like 27 rooms. Yeah. And there was four floors of there. So, and here, there's the next question is, what room did he stay in?
That's that's really funny. That is the one thing I do remember my dad saying once in a while. Because I don't remember about the interview, but I think he did mention one time about saying where the celebrity was at. And again, he was like, what the point was that he was telling me that you could never get away with that these days. That'd be a big no-no, saying, hey, he's on the third floor on the right, look at me. It's kind of like giving all your security away. So I do remember him saying one point like later on in life that he never would give information out anymore, like where actually they were at, or that that kind of thing, which is pretty common these days, I would say. Yeah
I know they used to use incognito names or whatever, but yeah, this was after the fact anyway, so it was past that point. He was already gone when he knew where he was. But it would be nice, like if you ever wanted to stay at that motel, you'd be like, I want to stay in that particular room, That's what I would do. If it's still there, I think I'm going to actually request that room.
Yeah, why not?
I think
it's like going to the Shining Hotel and wanting to get room 374, whatever number it was. I don't remember.
Exactly.
Right.
I think Barbara and I have a road trip in our future.
Yeah.
Did David's friends stay with him?
My dad said no manager, his bodyguard, and himself. So once again, it'd be very unusual for a limo driver to stay, but they just connected, so he just wanted him around. So he just did support him, just kind of hung out, and that was it. No friends or family.
Yeah. Was David mobbed?
My dad said, yeah, big time, big time mobbed. He signed all the autographs he could, and my dad would even sign someone on his behalf with his permission. So it was he definitely was always mobbed.
Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah, wherever he went, this was at the height of his pandemonium.
Yeah.
How did David act?
He said my dad said he was very nice on the first day or so, but by the end of this day, David was very sick, and I drove him around for 3 days. So I guess maybe he got a cold or got sick for a while. I do remember him vomiting in part. So I do remember my dad saying one time he had to pull over the limo. It was over one of the bridges, and he got sick. I do remember that. That triggered a memory.
Wow! David got sick while he was driving.
Yeah.
You know what? As I was doing this research with this, I actually found out. I found this article here, and it was talking about the concert, and that he went to go get his, like 2 days after this concert, because your father said he was very ill. So I said, oh, what the heck was going on with David? Then I found out that he actually had his gallbladder removed like 2 days later. So he was in California. He had to have emergency surgery on his gallbladder. And that's why maybe he was so sick when you father.
I do remember him saying they had to pull over on over one of the bridges, and he would throw over the bridge.
Oh man, poor thing. Yeah, because in this article they were saying like David was at Shirley Jones and Jack Cassidy's home on the 4th of July, and while he was there, he was not feeling well. And then I think he came back. He wanted to do he pushed himself because he wanted to do this Wildwood concert. So he went and did it, but then I guess he came back, he still wasn't feeling good. And I think originally they thought it was an ulcer, that he had an ulcer. But I guess when they did one test, they realized it was his gallbladder. And then he had to have it removed. And I think he was out of work for about 6 weeks. They had to close down the Partridge Family because he was really sick. Yeah. So that
adds up then in the timeline.
Yeah, absolutely. And they also said that David was strictly a vegetarian. I don't know if that's true.
That one I have no idea on. Yeah, I mean, he ate fish and crabs. I don't know if that's considered vegetarian or not, but I guess that's not meat, right? So maybe.
Yeah. Well, I know he was allergic to garlic. I mean, we're Italian, right? So you can't be to garlic when you're Italian.
I know that's about like being allergic to pasta, right?
Yeah. I don't know how. Yeah, that was crazy. All right, so that's great. So now, what other stories do you remember, like your father telling you? Did he tell you like any particular things that happened, like after the show, or any like memories that were triggered that you remember, like him telling you?
All I remember that the David Cassidy was the first celebrity the first celebrity that booked the limo business, and that relationship did spill over into these other relationships with with Davy Jones and Ron Howard, et cetera. So I do remember that being the catalyst for it, because they just had opened the company at the time.
Yeah, so it's actually almost 50 years that he performed David Cassidy at that venue, because it was July 10th, 71. I remember your father saying here that I have one of his things. He was saying that he was getting a lot of calls from the kids asking about info about David, and he was very happy to share all
Right.
that information. And
And it's kind of funny how times have changed. Like, I doubt severely that could ever happen again. My dad would probably be like arrested for giving out information, right? To strangers on the phone.
Right. Let's see. Did he mention like his first impression of David, like what he thought of him, like overall?
Yeah,
like,
he did. He thought he was absolutely lovely. He did talk about that. He was the sweetest guy in the world, because he taught, again, there's only one or two stories, but he would just keep telling the same story to us for years, like you hear anything. So it was always like, he was very, very sweet. And again, he did mention, being always compensated, overly compensated, from him. So he was, just sweet guy, supposedly, and very generous.
yeah.
And also generous to the fans, I guess. Making sure he can sign as many autographs as he can, and get and stand there as long as he can. And again, to your point, finding out later that weekend he was kind of, I guess, close to being sick. So he probably did the best he could.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, so I would like everyone to know, like, can you tell us a little bit about you? I mean, because I when I was looking at your father, then I saw your background. I'm like, wow, you have an interesting background too.
So I'm the opposite. I'm a cosmetic chemist, so that means I develop hair care, skincare, fragrances, bath and body products. I'm also a perfumer, so I develop fine fragrances. Everybody from Trader Joe's up to Chanel and everything in between. A lot of doctors, celebrities, retailers, private brands. So I have a lab here in Laguna Beach, California, which is where I'm at right now. And then we have a manufacturing plant that I work with in Scottsdale, Arizona. So it's really, we develop everything here in California and then go into production in Arizona. But it's all kinds of brands, and I'll just show you for fun. I'll take you really quick. So right now I'm at my lab. Wow. Some of the products I work on, but right now at the moment I actually have an SPF drug being made right now. So I have, you see I'm mixing out here in the other room. And this is the SPF portion of it, which is going to be put together.
Oh wow!
So it's like the full, like a lab.
Is it like a suntan lotion when you're saying SPF?
Exactly. This is a suntan lotion, exactly. And then we're right here on the ocean here in Laguna Beach. So this is where my little view.
Oh, nice.
Which is great.
Beautiful.
My 200-pound dog is somewhere floating around.
What's his name?
Oh, it's a girl. Here she is on the That's Savannah.
Oh, hi. Hi, Savannah.
Savannah, yeah, she's a girl.
Oh,
this is my office where I'm at right now. So it's a beautiful view. But all the ideas happen here, and then we take them into production in Arizona.
Oh, that's excellent. That's wonderful. I know, and I see that you have a lot of celebrity clients.
Yep.
Yeah,
we do. Everybody started off with Jennifer Lopez and Michael Jordan, and then Carrie Underwood, Victoria Beckham, so Gwen Stefani. So it's kind of evolved over the years, just as they've been going through their growing as an artist. They kind of reach out to me, but a lot of, also work with a lot of plastic surgeons and dermatologists, and in private brands and retailers. So it's really kind of all over the map.
Wow. So now, what are these like wash things to wash your face with and things like that? Because I haven't.
Pretty much all categories: hair care, skin care, so cleansers, moisturizers, hair care. The one like I just showed you now is an OTC drug, which means it's an SPF. So an SPF is considered a drug. And then also it could be body wash, manicure, pedicure, baby products, even pet products. Really, kind of all categories.
Yeah. Oh, wow.
Yeah.
And
Well, the only thing we don't do is color cosmetics.
okay.
Yeah.
And where do you find all your products? Like, because I haven't seen them. Maybe I haven't looked, but I haven't seen them.
All over the place. It depends what brand that we're working with, but like some of them are Amazon. I mean, there's tons that are in Sephora, Macy's, Bloomingdale. I mean, we work with Procter & Gamble and Johnson & Johnson. Of course, you find those in CVS, Walgreens. So we're also a private label business, meaning that if you're like a if you already have like a brand established, let's say like Oil of Olay, right? They may once in a while come to me and say, hey, we want to do a new Oil of Olay product and have some new creative ideas. And of course, they have Johnson & Johnson would have a tremendous amount of scientists in house, but sometimes they go outside of their own location to try and find some more creative ideas and kind of some new ideas and stuff. So we'll get like ideas like that once in a while. Companies like that that'll want to work on products.
Okay. And then to find your actual products that you use with the celebrities, is it like a website that people go to find it?
Yeah, my website, just my name in Italian, which is Vincenzo. So it's Vincenzo, which is VINCENZ like zebra, O like ocean, skincare.com. So VincenzoSkincare.com.
Okay.
And then my personal name, which is just Vince Spinnato, VINCESPINNATO. That's my main website, which is where my book is at. I have a documentary coming out, and then also the product line. So the documentary which is coming out in the fall will be like on Netflix, Hulu, those kind of locations, and it's really kind of showing America how products are made from concept to launch. So really kind of what you're asking me, but actually showing it how we actually do it.
Oh, wow. I'm excited to see that. Oh, great. I have Netflix, so I'm looking forward to that.
That's going to be called Skin Deep, formulating a legacy. And actually, a lot of it's about my dad. So my dad is in it. My mother's in it, et cetera. So it's a lot of, you'll recognize everybody.
Thank you so much.
Of course.
I really enjoyed this, and I really enjoyed. You know what it is? David was driven around so many times in limousines. So like that was his life. He was living in limousines or in the back of like trucks, and they were throwing him things. They were hiding him in hotels. A lot of times he wasn't even staying at the hotel with the rest of the band. Because this was the beginning of his performances. But towards as it went on, they would have to have him at one hotel. He would be like in a seedy motel in the bad side of the town, and then the rest of his band would be in a nice hotel, and he was always by himself, very lonely. You should actually listen to David Cassidy's music, because I don't know if you've had a chance to listen to it like in the recent years, but if you buy his albums, I mean, his music is amazing. Like, it's very underrated.
I love still hearing an old, like, not even that old anymore, like a regular record player. I mean, I would love to do that. Like, just get the old records and just play them. Appreciate it.
Thank you for taking the time. I appreciate it. I know you're very busy with everything. Thank you so much. It's nice to meet you.